Stop believing the lies. Forget diamonds, fancy cars, and flashy displays. Most men think money equals desire, but they are wrong. What women truly crave is far more subtle, far more powerful, far more psychologically magnetic than wealth. This isn't luck. This isn't a charm. This is a Machiavellian strategy applied to desire. Today, you'll discover what actually makes women chase, notice, and choose a man without him ever trying to buy it. Most men fall into the same trap. They assume that wealth equals attraction. They believe that a luxury car, an expensive watch, or a designer suit will automatically turn heads, spark desire, and cement admiration. But here's the harsh truth. Money can get eyes, but it cannot plant desire in the mind. It can open doors, yes, but it cannot make anyone linger, lean in, or think of you when you're not there. Think about it. How many men have walked into a crowded room, dripping in riches, only to leave unnoticed, or worse, quietly mocked behind their backs? Money creates a spectacle, not a connection. Let me paint a picture. A wealthy man enters a party. His watch flashes under the dim lights. His wallet is thick, his shoes pristine. Women glance. They nod politely, but then they move on. Something is missing, something that no bank account can provide. What is it? It is presence. His confidence is tied to possessions, his charisma borrowed from balance sheets rather than self-possession. Machiavelli observed centuries ago that those who flaunt wealth are often revealing insecurity, not dominance. The richer they appear, the more desperately they seem to need validation, and subconsciously, women can sense it. True influence does not come from what you own. It comes from how you occupy a space without needing approval. Let's break it down. There is a difference between attention and attraction. Money can buy attention. People notice the car, the suit, the flashy watch, but attraction is something far more primal and psychological. It emerges from presence, dominance, and unshakable self-possession. Women's brains are wired to detect neediness, even when it is masked by riches. They respond instinctively to confidence, to subtle cues of dominance, to energy that signals self-sufficiency. Money is merely decoration. The brain seeks power that resides within, not in the wallet. Contrast that with the man who may have little to his name, but radiates quiet power. He doesn't need to announce himself. He moves deliberately, speaks with authority, and holds his gaze. His energy draws attention, curiosity, and ultimately desire. He can mesmerize a room without a luxury car in sight. This is not luck. This is mastery of presence. Machiavelli, observing human nature across centuries, would tell us that influence comes from commanding respect without demanding it, from the invisible authority of a man who owns himself rather than his possessions. Have you ever noticed how some men with nothing to show, no money, no flashy gadgets, can mesmerize a room, while wealthy men are ignored, unnoticed, or worse, pitied? Why does this happen? Why does presence outshine possession? In the next section, we'll uncover the psychological keys that allow a man to generate desire far beyond the reach of money, and why most men will never understand them. Tuned to power, confidence, and control. Long before they notice your car, your clothes, or your bank balance, their brains scan for dominant signals, subtle cues of self-possession, emotional stability, and independence. They are drawn to the man who has already chosen himself, the man who does not bend to social expectation or demand approval from others. Money is fleeting. It can vanish overnight. Presence, on the other hand, is timeless, etched into your demeanor, your voice, your posture, your very energy. Let me illustrate. A man walks into a crowded coffee shop. He wears nothing flashy, carries no designer bag, and yet all eyes are drawn to him. Why? Not because of what he owns, but because of who he is. He moves with calm deliberation, sits with measured confidence, and speaks with a voice that conveys unshakable authority. Women notice the subtle dominance in his body language, the straight shoulders, the relaxed movements, the controlled energy. He does not need to impress anyone. His mere presence commands fascination. Scarcity, self-control, and internal confidence are far more magnetizing than any bank balance. Here's the key. Attraction is psychological, not material. Women's subconscious minds are drawn to cues that signal emotional independence, scarcity, and unshakable confidence. When a man reacts instantly to every message or seeks validation through attention, he signals neediness. But when a man masters himself first, his emotions, his responses, his energy, he radiates control. That control creates a magnetic pull, a tension that women notice, often without fully understanding why. Presence becomes a psychological lever, far more potent than money. Actionable strategy: observe your body language. Stand tall, shoulders back, chest open, movements deliberate. Speak in a calm, measured voice. Avoid fidgeting, looking for approval, or over-gesturing. Your body communicates more than words ever could. Practice emotional independence. Don't react instantly to texts, social media attention, or validation from others. Respond deliberately, showing that your emotions are self-contained. This subtle scarcity signals value. Create psychological scarcity. Spend time cultivating yourself, skills, experiences, and knowledge, rather than chasing attention. The less predictable you are, the more magnetic your presence becomes. Ask yourself, do I chase validation through wealth, status, or external approval? Or do I cultivate internal authority, self-possession, and control? The answer reveals whether you are merely another man with money, or a man whose presence alone bends desire to him. Machiavelli observed something centuries ahead of his time. Desire itself is a form of power. Attraction is not about what you show, what you spend, or how loudly you announce yourself. It is power in motion. The man who understands this does not chase validation, attention, or approval. He does not flash wealth to impress. Instead, he creates fascination. He makes people, especially women, curious about him. Curiosity is a subtle form of control. Fascination is influence applied silently, but effectively. Consider this scene. A man enters a crowded networking event. He does not rush to the bar, does not flaunt possessions, and does not seek approval or attention. He moves calmly, observing, analyzing, absorbing the energy of the room. Women notice him, not immediately, not with overt signals, but through a slow, almost subconscious pull. Curiosity builds, fascination grows. People find themselves wondering, who is he? Why does he carry himself like that? This is strategic psychological influence, something money cannot buy. Presence, self-possession, and subtle dominance create it effortlessly. Psychological breakdown. Machiavellian mechanics. Strategic scarcity. Being unavailable or understated triggers curiosity. When a man is too present, too eager, or constantly accessible, he signals neediness. Scarcity, on the other hand, makes him desirable. People are drawn to what they cannot fully grasp. Calculated unpredictability. Predictable men are boring. A man who behaves in measured, occasionally unpredictable ways keeps minds mentally engaged, guessing, and intrigued. This unpredictability is not chaos. It is a controlled strategy. Subtle dominance. Influence is rooted in setting boundaries while maintaining respect. Women instinctively sense dominance that is calm, unshakable, and self-contained. It does not require aggression or arrogance. It is quiet, internalized power that communicates, "I am in control of myself, therefore I am worthy of attention." Ask yourself, why does a man who barely speaks often draw more attention than the loudest one in the room? The answer lies not in his words, but in the invisible force of psychological mastery, presence, and strategic influence. Wealth cannot replicate this. Flashy gestures cannot substitute for it. Only a man who has honed his internal authority and subtle control can wield attraction like a weapon. Too many men believe that wealth is the ultimate tool of attraction. They flash money, luxury brands, and gadgets, thinking admiration will follow. It doesn't. True magnetism comes from presence, self-possession, and strategic influence. Money may open doors, but presence keeps people inside the room, curious and intrigued. Presence is not about noise or grand gestures. It is subtle, deliberate, and magnetic. Speak slowly, move with intention, and hold eye contact that communicates confidence. Your body, your voice, and your energy must all convey, "I own this space. I do not need approval." This quiet authority is infinitely more compelling than the loudest display of wealth. Scarcity creates desire. If you are always available, always responding, always present, you signal neediness and accessibility, and that diminishes value. By deliberately being slightly unavailable, by letting your absence be noticed, you trigger psychological tension and curiosity. People naturally want what they cannot fully grasp, and this scarcity becomes a silent tool of influence. Predictability is boring. A man who reveals everything about himself at once is instantly demystified and loses intrigue. Maintain a sense of mystery. Reveal layers of your personality, slowly, strategically. Keep her guessing, wondering, and mentally engaged. Unpredictability, when controlled and deliberate, becomes a powerful tool to command attention without seeming desperate or manipulative. A calm, composed man is magnetic. Control your emotions, your time, your energy. Reacting impulsively or seeking validation diminishes authority. A man who masters himself first communicates internal power, which women sense subconsciously. Emotional independence signals that your value does not depend on external approval. It is inherent, self-contained, and compelling. Authority is magnetic when paired with respect. Lead conversations, set boundaries, and remain unshakable in your demeanor. Women instinctively detect subtle dominance, the ability to guide without controlling, to assert without aggression. This balance of confidence and respect creates psychological pull that no amount of wealth can replicate. Let me give you a real example. A friend of mine, with no wealth to speak of, walked into a crowded party. He did nothing flashy, no designer clothes, no expensive gadgets, yet by being slightly unavailable, speaking sparingly but confidently, he became the center of attention. Women approached him, curiosity evident in their eyes. Why? Not because of his bank account, but because his presence communicated high value, self-possession, and unshakable confidence. Money had nothing to do with it. Presence was everything. These strategies are not tricks or manipulative gimmicks. They are principles of influence honed over centuries, observed by Machiavelli and perfected through human psychology. Money is optional. Presence is essential. Scarcity, self-mastery, subtle dominance, and controlled unpredictability are what make a man truly irresistible. If you master these, the world, and women, cannot help but take notice. The human brain is hardwired to respond to power that doesn't need permission. Women sense it instinctively, even before they are consciously aware of it. Money, flashy clothes, and expensive toys are external. They signal value, but cannot generate internal magnetism. Presence, on the other hand, is internal, emanating quietly from posture, voice, energy, and self-mastery. A man who commands a room without raising his voice, without boasting, without seeking approval, triggers a subtle psychological pull that captivates attention and inspires curiosity.